And B, that implies the end of the bull market. Once you hit that blow off top, the next big move is down. And that's neither what I want, but also not what I see based on the fundamentals. The money printing hasn't stopped. The central bank buying hasn't stopped. All the reasons to be bullish on gold are still there. So it just doesn't seem like this is a market that's ready to peak to me. It seems to me like a market that wants to go higher for years to come.
You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
And welcome. This is Financial Survival Network. I'm your host, Kerry Lutz. Our good friend Lobo Tiggre is with us now, formerly known as Louis James, but that's so long ago, I probably shouldn't even mention that anymore. Well, we got good news. The shutdown thing that really affected me, two things. I've written a couple of books, Lobo, and I haven't been able to get a Library of Congress control number, which is an absolute must to get your books in libraries. They won't buy them without it. That and trying to get back from LaGuardia Airport Sunday night turned into a half a day affair. A plane that was supposed to leave at 2:25 left at 8:25. Actually, it left about 8, but because there were no controllers on the East Coast, it had to deviate west over Tennessee to get to Florida. It was a 3.5-hour flight. It was hell, pure hell. So I'm happy they're back from that standpoint because I got some flights coming up, and I don't want to know about this anymore. What's your take on the shutdown? The government that governs least is that which governs best. They were governing at their least.
Well, it's false advertising, Kerry. They don't shut down. If only they would. I would much rather see services revert to market forces when people realize how very incompetent the government is for doing all these things that, even if you believed in, a minimal watchman state, that, there's so much stuff in there that's not in the Constitution. It shouldn't be done at all. And, you'd think a shutdown would be the opportunity to clear up some of the mess. And you remember there was talk early in the shutdown about firing, if these workers are non-essential, well, then why do we have them at all? Why not just fire them, right? But of course, it's just all a circus, and they weren't really going to do that. If anything, the whole Doge and Trump Musk blow up shows that if you really try to go in and cut, the deep state will fight back, it seems. So I wasn't too worried about the shutdown, record long shutdown. Okay. Air traffic delays and stuff. This is really just an inconvenience. It's not like the world stopped or the economy stopped. And we all knew it was going to end, in a compromise, and, until January, right? The circus starts again in January. So, long live the chaos.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree with you more. To me, it was just like going through TSA. Our good friend Robert Ian calls that security theater. They're not really there to catch anybody. They're just there to make you think that they're going to keep you safe. But I will say one thing, like the TSA wasn't getting paid during the so-called shutdown, but I raced through the TSA line. They got this new technology. You stick your license in a slot, the thing takes your picture, and then you get to wait while everybody's baggage gets scanned, because the baggage scanning can't keep up with the approval from the TSA agents that you check out. It's a pure exercise in madness, the entire thing.
We're heading towards a rather scary, brave new world, Kerry. You talk about, looking at the machine and having it verify you. The last time I was in Europe, they didn't even ask for the papers or the passport or the cards or anything. You just walk by and the thing looks at you and they let you on the airplane. The implications of that, it's always very convenient. We could just walk on the airplane. But the implications of that, my face, the the facial recognition and the tracking you everywhere, the cameras everywhere. We are, I think you could make a claim that we already live in a surveillance state. All that needs for it to turn into a nightmare surveillance state is for the governments to turn even more authoritarian than they already are.
That's probably coming.
So, yeah, it makes it. You know what? I don't want to get too tinfoil hat here, but one of the reasons why I live in Puerto Rico,
that's okay.
one of the reasons I live in Puerto Rico isn't just the tax breaks, which are great, but also it's so far off the beaten path. And, I don't think most people around the world even remember that Puerto Rico is part of the United States or belongs to the United States.
It is. When did they do that?
We stole it from Spain fair and square in 1898. But if there's an ICBM, headed for the U.S. somewhere, the MIRVs for L.A., Chicago, New York, Washington, sure. San Juan, Puerto Rico, probably not. So if things get really scary, really bad, I hope I'm not like that guy who moved to, where was it? Guadalcanal or something to get out of the way of World War II, So I hope that I've made it a wise move. But the other thing is, like, if things get really scary, you can't freeze here, and you can grow stuff all year round. So that's from a worst case scenario point of view. I'd rather have a bunker in Puerto Rico than a bunker in Idaho where I can freeze my posterior off in the winter.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's and the weather is good there, and yeah, you do get some storms, some hurricanes. Every place on the planet has some type of natural disaster that's got its name on it, right?
Pluses or minuses for every place.
Yeah,
I'm certainly not saying this one's perfect. And honestly, I don't spend too much time thinking about this. The tail risk of something that bad happening at that point, I'm not worried about my investments anymore. I'm not worried about almost anything else, right? But it is, we live in a scary world, and, we're celebrating the shutdown of the shutdown, which was just a circus anyway. But meanwhile, we've still got Putin over there,
Yeah. So what
we are closer to, serious bad stuff going down than we've been, I think, in decades. And I think it's the financial survival network, but the survival part's important. And I'm not telling anybody to, quit their job and head for the hills or stuff like that. But you know what? The thing about insurance is, even if you never use it, it's better to have it than not. And if you can afford to take out a little crisis insurance that, harden your assets, harden your life against possible tail risks, I don't think that's a tinfoil hat crazy thing to do.
Well, that's why we own gold and silver, right?
Well, it wasn't because silver was going to $53 today. Weren't you gambling on silver going higher, Kerry?
Well, I gambled 15 years ago. Well, when I bought most of my keep in my house. But
I'm teasing, of course.
We always knew that it was going to do this, right?
Yes. But so the bullion, I think of as savings, as real money. It's a financial long for which there's no short in insurance, all that sort of thing. So it fits into our previous conversation. Absolutely. No question. Bullion is part of that. As I don't think of myself as a gambler. I try to think of myself as a disciplined speculator, and to speculate on gains. That's what the stocks are for. Because if I think gold is going up or copper, uranium or whatever, if I think it's going up, owning the metal or an ETF that represents the metal is the least leverage I can get to that upside. If I'm right, I want a hockey stick, right? So the way to do that is with the mining stocks, and they have been delivering in spades this year. There was, I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but it was, a year or two ago, people were thinking the mining stocks were broken. Gold was up and these stocks couldn't get off the floor. And people were wondering, well, is this the end? Maybe Bitcoin is eating the mining stocks lunch. Well, this year has answered the question. No, I think there was good reasons for people to be skeptical of mining stocks. They more or less flubbed it in 2008 to 2012, right? And now that they've not. Now they've had some discipline. They're making money. I mean, the producers are really, printing cash, right? They're mining gold and silver. They got real money, right? and oil prices are down. So you got lower energy prices, lower input costs, and you've got soaring sales, your revenue. So you have to be a really crappy miner not to be making money in this space. And by the way, dear audience, that's a litmus test. This is not a time to look for overlooked gems in the mining stocks. If there's a mining stock that is not responding to gold or silver, or gold or silver stock that's not responding to higher gold and silver, there's something wrong with that company.
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head, and that's what you need to be aware of there when you're looking, for sure. So, hey, how much higher is it going to go? Martin Armstrong said once the gold hits 5,000, it'll rapidly go to 10,000. Said that's just the way they work. When you hit those flat numbers, those big numbers, it just goes up from there. It looked like we were going to get $60 silver very quickly. I guess it's 3 weeks ago, and then mysteriously dollars. But now it's back over 50, which tells me the control mechanisms are kind of becoming less effective, shall we say.
If that was Mr. Slammy, as we like to say on social media, he failed, right? If you think about it, like the last $50 flirtations with silver were like super sharp peaks, just screaming up intraday and then down again on the other side. So silver held above 50 before, a couple of weeks ago, it held above 50 for more than a week, and now it's back and even higher. Mm-hmm. That is really different from the previous spikes. It's already more of a plateau and not a spike. And on the gold side, I think it's really telling that, like that beach ball, that they keep trying to push it under 4,000. Gold drops under 4,000 and then come popping back up again with gusto. That again does not suggest that blow off top. It suggests consolidation, building, getting ready for the next big leg. And the last times we've seen this, gold did it at 3,500 more or less, did it at 3,000 for quite a while. Once it hit 2,000 a couple of years ago, it with volatility traded sideways for a couple of years. So it seems like you get a big run up, consolidate, big run up, consolidate. And so that's what's happening right now. We've had a big run up and it's consolidating, not going down again. So the pattern, this isn't a promise. How high can it go? You're asking me a crystal ball question. My magic is already here.
We like to on the spot. Lobo.
Yeah. But so I'll be happy if I just get the direction right. If we had this conversation 2 weeks ago, I'd be much more cautious. Right now, with each passing day, it looks like we are seeing another one of these periods of consolidation before another move higher. How much higher? I don't know, but clearly 5,000 is not so difficult from here. That's a pretty milquetoast forecast.
Yeah. And the only surprise to you and I think, happened back on the great financial crash, But I guess maybe that crash certainly shook the foundations of the financial system, but it wasn't the final test.
Yeah, that was, some of the smartest people I know, people I respect the most, they all thought that was it. Like there was no way the financial house of cards could withstand such a shock. And yet somehow they did. Like there's no way they could paper that over. And they did. Mm-hmm. Makes me nervous about saying they can't do it again. It seems like, eventually, but never confuse the eventual with the imminent, as our friend Rick Rule likes to say. So, Judgment Day is coming. There's no question. The only question is when. And I cannot say that is soon. I'm not sure that I'm willing to say that 5,000 takes us straight to 10,000. That blow off top implies a pretty scary world, Kerry, and I'd rather not see that for some time, frankly. But Mr. Turkey doesn't care what I want. It's going to do whatever it's going to do. My take, for whatever it's worth, is I think we're going to see more consolidation here, more waffling. And then we'll see another big leg up, but hopefully not a parabolic, going vertical. Because A, that implies bad things in the real world. And B, that implies the end of the bull market. Once you hit that blow off top, the next big move is down. And that's neither what I want, but also not what I see based on the fundamentals. The money printing hasn't stopped. The central bank buying hasn't stopped. All the reasons to be bullish on gold are still there. So it just doesn't seem like this is a market that's ready to peak to me. It seems to me like a market that wants to go higher for years to come. And if it corrects in the near term before that, then I would see that as a great opportunity for anybody who feels like they missed the boat.
Yeah, like a couple of weeks ago when silver corrected, right? And it was down, it hit 47. And then...
Yeah, I mean, think about that, Kerry. Silver drops all the way to 47. Oh, my, oh, me. What will we do? $47. You know, those mines were built to make money at $15, $18 silver. So the actual business that these stocks represent was fantastic. And yet the drop off in the stocks was like they're going broke tomorrow or something. You know, when there's a disconnect between price and value, this is another Doug Caseyism, my old mentor, Doug Casey. This is one of his main things. When price and value diverge, that's where opportunity exists.
Yeah. The thing is, I can still find deals on eBay today to buy silver below melt.
You know,
Can that be?
we were both at the New Orleans show just recently, and I was walking the exhibitors hall looking at the companies, and I was hoping there'd be one of those dealers there who would have like bags of old junk silver, because I have a pretty decent silver stack, and I have, of course, gold bullion. That's how I saved my long-term savings. But I don't have a lot of like, you know, junk silver to make change. If you ever actually had to use it in a Mad Max type scenario, you know, I'm not going to go down and buy a loaf of bread with an ounce of gold. I need more small change, or even an ounce of silver would be too much at that point. We need
You need a dime, a silver dime, basically.
something like that.
Yeah, well, hopefully we won't get to that point, but control, they're going to have to do a reset, right? I mean, how else are they going to do this?
Yeah, I agree. And the world has changed. You know, China's military power. I remember a couple of decades ago when China started building out its Navy, and I thought, you know, good luck with that. It's going to cost so much, and the U.S. is decades ahead. Now the Chinese Navy is larger than the U.S. Navy. I mean, this is a very different world. And the BRICS, okay, it's just a club. It has no statutory authority, but there is sort of maybe moral authority, if you will, from that different world perspective. Let's put it this way. We had a peace dividend after the fall of the Soviet Union for decades, and that led to this globalization, and it defined an economic era. That is rapidly being reversed. We are becoming a bipolar world again, maybe in more ways than one.
Yeah,
right?
I think
New hemispheres. And that de-globalization trend is powerful and obvious, and it comes with the de-dollarization trend. So, you know, the macro setting here, I have very little doubt about where things are going. I just caution people to, again, you know, Rick Rule, never confuse the inevitable with the imminent. And as we were just talking about how unbelievable it was that they kicked the can down the road after the crash of 2008. So, you know, there could be a big kerfuffle market meltdown. Let's say the AI bubble pops, right?
Mm-hmm.
And really takes Wall Street down. You know, if you have this concentration of all this great outperformance, American exceptionalism, if it's all in 7 stocks and those go into reverse, the whole thing goes into reverse.
Bad news.
I would, you know, bad news, scary things, opportunities would abound. You know, the idea is buy low, sell high, right? When value and price diverge, that can be an absolute gift from the market. But don't assume this means the end is nigh, right? You know, take out that insurance. Fine. Have insurance in case things get really scary. But don't head for the bunker in Idaho until the girth-challenged lady has sung.
I think we will leave it at that. And just tell us where we find you and how we connect with you on the web, Lobo.
IndependentSpeculator.com. I have a free weekly digest. You may or may not agree with everything I say, but one thing I can promise is won't spam you with endless daily advertisements. I hate that.
All right. Well, that's a notable achievement in and of itself. Questions, comments, shoot me an email, kl@kerrylutz.com. Lobo, always a pleasure. We will talk to you again real soon.
Next time, Kerry.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.